A special letter on singleness. Dear friend, I read a lot of books that call single women old males or spinsters, which makes singleness sound like a bad thing. I am single, 32 years old, so I guess I could be considered an old maid. Hey, maybe I am even a spinster. I am a virgin and I've never been kissed. I get tired of questions like, do you have a boyfriend? Or do you want to get married? No, I don't have a boyfriend. Sometimes I want to get married. Most of the time I don't. I like being single. I've always wanted to have children, so I spend a lot of time with other people's children. I edited this book as I read it. I had the perspective of someone who's a little older than you probably are, and who is asking different questions than you might be asking right now. I thought, what about the girl who will never marry? What will she remember about this book several years from now? How will it help her? I have a lot of friends who are single. Some like being single, but many of them would rather be married. Some even wonder whether God likes them less because they're single. But some of God's favorite people in the Bible were single. Jeremiah, Daniel, and Paul were single, and so were Mary, Martha, and Jesus. Obviously, being single can be a good thing for some people. God hasn't just forgotten to find a husband for me. He has a special plan for me. He may give me a husband someday, or he may not. Either way, it's okay. It's probably hard for you to accept that idea quite as readily as I do, and that's okay too. Some people think the worst part of being single is not having sex. Sorry, that really isn't the most important part for me. Other than not having children, for me the hardest thing is probably that I don't have anyone to do things that husbands do around the house, like taking care of the car, or buying a newer one, or changing light bulbs that are too high for me to reach. I just recently moved 500 miles and I'm buying my first house. And through a lot of the process, I wished I had a husband to work with me. It would be nice if I had a husband who would hug me if I was depressed and if I could help a man become a more godly person, which is the main thing a wife is supposed to do. A husband should be a partner, and making decisions with someone else is easier than making them by oneself. But a lot of things about my life wouldn't be as nice if I got married. My schedule is more flexible and I can be myself whenever I want to. I don't have to worry about whether my husband likes my friends or whether I like his family. If I'm sick, I can stay in bed without having to get up and take care of kids. When I make something for supper, that's really good. I have lots of leftovers, but I don't have to cook anything fancy if I don't want to. I've had several roommates, and like me, all roommates have had bad habits, but it would be harder to put up with a husband's bad habits. Scripture admits it's actually harder to be married than to be single in 1 Corinthians 7:28 in the later half of the verse. Um, I decided a long time ago that it was okay to be single and that if I ever got married, it would be a really special man. Being married to him would have to be better than being single. Of course, he would have to be a good Christian who cared about pleasing God, and he would have to be committed to marriage without the possibility of divorce. He would have to really like kids. He would need to have a good sense of humor, be intelligent, make enough money so I could stay home when we had children, and be someone I enjoyed being around. He would probably be a virgin because that's really important to me. He would have to have the same standards, like not wanting to have a TV in the house when we had kids. He would have to really love me and be someone I could really respect. I grew up hearing that I should stay a virgin because it was important to be a virgin when I got married. But I have found several reasons that it is important not to have sex with someone other than my husband, even if I never get married. First, if I had sex, I wouldn't be as likely to still be happy single, so I might marry the wrong man just to have sex. Hmm. Second, I wouldn't be a good example to the children I teach. Third, I might get a sexually transmitted disease or get pregnant, and I'd have the shame of having everyone know I had disobeyed God. Fourth, sex with someone who wasn't my husband wouldn't even be very special, and I'd get my heart broken badly when we broke up. But none of those is the most important reason. God said not to. That's the most important reason. Do you want to know what was one of the most exciting reasons to me when I discovered it? In the Bible, the church is called the bride of Christ, and Revelation says the bride of Christ will someday be clothed in white wedding gowns. Revelations 3, 4 through 5, and chapter 19, verses 7 through 8. I'm engaged to be married to Christ, and He's perfect. I would want to be able to wear a white wedding gown if I ever got married. If I don't get married, I want Christ to be my only husband, and I'm glad I still get to wear a white wedding dress someday. The Apostle Paul said that singleness can be very good, 1 Corinthians 7:8 and verses 32 to 35. He said that single people have opportunities to do more for God because they don't have to take care of a husband or a wife and children. Because I'm not busy with my own children, I have more time to teach Sunday school and do other things with children. I also can work at a full-time job. Some single people are missionaries in places where it's hard to raise children, or they do a lot of traveling. Marriage was God's idea, and it's a really good one. For most people, marriage is better than singleness, but singleness is better than a bad marriage. And for some people, singleness is best. God knows what is best for you. Or, singleness is better than a bad relationship. Um, and He loves you enough to give it to you if you wait and let Him. Love, Cheryl Dunlap. Cheryl Dunlap is a freelance editor and a writer living in Nashville, Tennessee. She is the author of Follow Me as I Follow Christ, a guide for teaching children in a church setting. That was a nice letter.